Hi guys, it's Nicci from Nicci's Embroidery, and this is another teachable moment. I'm kind of excited about this one. In the past few years, I have read and seen and heard people make this statement about machine embroidery, and this is the statement: if you wear it, don't tear it. And they're referencing the stabilizer, which to me is absolutely incorrect, and I kind of want to clarify on those points. So I want to give you a little bit of assistance. It's a teachable moment, so that if that is said to you, or if you are adhering to it, we're going to give you an alternate idea of the way to inspect textiles so that you can use the correct stabilizer and you can get perfect embroidery results. Okay, that sounds fun. That's what we're going to show you. Now, first thing, I just want to mention right off the bat, anytime anyone gives you machine embroidery advice, textile advice, or anything having to do with this type of technique, I want you to do me a favor. Go check their work. Go look. You should see examples of many different types of textiles correctly stabilized and embroidered before you take any advice from the person. Because of course, I could make up a bunch of advice about horses. I don't know anything about them, and it might sound good, like you should definitely not ride a green horse. I think that's something. And then to make sure a horse isn't green, you would ride it once a month. So it's probably very inaccurate, because I'm just kind of pulling from a little bit of knowledge I maybe picked up somewhere. So that's what this teachable moment is about. Make sure that when you are getting education or instruction, that it's coming from someone who's qualified to give it, or that has shown you that the information is correct. So that's what we're saying. So we have some examples of some embroidery work here, and then we have some stabilizers. And we're just going to have a quick chat about, is it a myth if you wear it, don't tear it? So what they're referencing is tear-away stabilizer as opposed to cutaway stabilizer, and they are very different. They aren't the only stabilizers, however, and it's actually an inaccurate statement, because there are lots of fabrics that you wear that you do not put cutaway stabilizer on, and there are a lot that you do. So it is definitely tantamount for you to check the fiber content, not whether or not you wear the item. You wear lots of things. It's got nothing to do with it. So please, if someone gives you that rule, please disregard it, and we're going to give you some better information, okay? So let me show you. This is a velveteen. It's a brown velveteen. It's a mid-weight. I want to say that jacket's probably 10 years old. It was embroidered probably 10 years ago. It's got some lightweight embroidery on it. It's not heavily encrusted, and the velveteen is a woven fabric. Therefore, this is a coat that you wear. The fabric is a velveteen, and it is a woven. So therefore, this type of design and garment receives a tear-away stabilizer, just a medium weight. So the rule of if you wear it, don't tear it isn't true of this one, correct? Definitely. And we're going to go into stabilizers, but I want to give you some examples because I want you to understand completely why the rule is inaccurate. So I'm going to get out some things. We have a pile of clothing here, so we're going to get a few. And I'm going to get this one out. But this is a very good example of the opposite of the rule. All right? So this fabric, this is a dirndl. It's just a costume. It's been completely embroidered all around the bottom. But I want to talk to you about this textile because this actually looks like a black poplin. It looks like but it's not. It's actually a dancing dress. So this fabric has about 7% spandex in it. It looks like a woven, feels like a woven, is shiny like a woven, has all the characteristics of a woven. It wrinkles. It is in fact not a complete 100% woven. It has spandex in it to have give for dancing. Therefore, it has cutaway underneath the embroidery. Does that make sense? So if you wear it, don't tear it applies to this textile. But not really, because I wear both garments. So let's change the language. If it has give, it needs a permanent stabilizer. Velveteen has no give. It's a woven. You can use tearaway on it, and you should be able to get away with it. It'd be just fine. Not even just get away with it. It's what you should use. This fabric, however, has a bunch of give. And so since it's been designed to give, especially going around the lower edge of this circle, I've fused a poly mesh stabilizer, a black. And I kind of want you, we're going to zoom in so you guys can kind of see that, because we're going to have a chat about that too. Because I think I kind of have figured out where the rule, or why someone made up the rule, their perception of the rule, or what they were stating. This is fused poly mesh, and as you can see, and I'm just going to flip one time so you can see this design. It goes all the way around the circumference of the skirt. And you can see that a fusible mesh stabilizer has been left in place. But you can also see that it's been snipped in different regions. I want to make sure you guys can really see. See how they snipped in? Because if I had not snipped in, this is going on a curve and it's on the bias and it's a knit fabric, I would have gotten puckering to the front because some of this fabric is a woven and some is a knit. But if you look, there isn't any. And this, of course, travels the complete circumference of the skirt. It's a really full skirt. This is a prime example of a fabric that looks and acts like a woven, but is in fact not a woven and does require a mesh stabilizer, especially for this heavily encrusted embroidery. Okay, prime example of you do need a mesh stabilizer. Okay, I'm going to set this one aside. We're probably going to end up with a large laundry pile on that side. Here is another example of a Pendleton wool, and it's been machine embroidered, a different type of machine embroidery technique, kind of like a mola, very, very heavy. And this also does not need a cutaway, but you wear it. So if you wear it, don't tear it. Remember, they're referencing cutaway, tearaway. This is a woven, it's a wool, it's a very good quality wool. It just needs a medium weight tearaways. No cutaway on this. All right, prime example. Again, look to the work. Look to the work of the person. See if it's clean. Do not take embroidery advice or any advice unless you're very sure of the source, okay? All right, here's one that has a whole bunch of stretch. This is a polyester full-blown. You guys can see how much stretch it has. This is, of course, a candidate for a cutaway. It has so much stretch that the fabric needs to be stabilized when it's embroidered. What you need to understand is that when you embroider, you machine embroider, you do what's called impact stitching. The thread goes down in and moves the fibers that are the actual textile. If it's a woven textile like a cotton or linen, the warp and weft will move left and right and the stitches will sink down in the way they're supposed to. With polyester, we love polyester. Polyester fabric is wonderful. It doesn't get wrinkled. It gives, when you eat a little extra, you look great in it. It's just a wonderful fabric. It doesn't wrinkle. You throw it in the wash, throw it in the dryer, it comes out. This one was in a, I don't know, it wasn't on a hanger and it's not wrinkled. And I noticed some other things are wrinkled. But here's the interesting thing. The things that we love about this textile require a little preparation. This fiber would definitely require a cutaway, most likely a fusible. I would use a fusible if it were me. All right? Now here's a trick fabric. This one here. And I love this. This is actually mine. Not everything here is mine, but this one actually is mine. And this particular company I really love. This is a stretch wool. It's pretty rare. You don't see it around all the time, but this jacket's a fitted jacket. And so, of course, since it's a fitted jacket, it's fitted in the areas of the body that need a little give when you sit down or when you're walking. So it has some stretch. It's a newer fiber. These stretchable wools have just come out in the last 4 or 5 years. Interestingly enough, a wool would use a tearaway. But a stretching wool, which this one is, it has give, this one is going to need a fusible if it's embroidered, okay, regardless of what type of embroidery. So do you guys starting to see? The rule is inaccurate because it's not true of every fiber, and the rule was probably made by someone who doesn't understand there's so many mixed textiles. There's thousands of textiles that are mixed. So I would encourage you always to inspect the textile, find the fiber content, and then build your stabilizer solution. That's what you should be doing. You should be building a stabilizer solution for the fabric you're working with. Not a blanket rule, because you can see that the rule really isn't true. Here's another one. This is a denim. It's just a straight up denim, no stretch. Not stretched denim gets tearaway. Stretchy denim gets a fusible, however, because it's going to give. Okay? Starting to make sense? Oh, this one's great. Here is, I'm so glad this is in here. This is almost, and I think that I don't have the actual fiber content, but I'm going to open it so you guys can see the inside, because this is one that would be a challenge too and not fall under the rule. All right, and I want to make sure, can they see this one? I'm gonna get the hanger out, okay? And I actually know that this one's a challenge because I just did one that was black. All right, so this is a very, almost like a chemise feeling, and then it's completely lined. Can you guys kind of see that? So with ready to wear, it comes lined. And this becomes a challenge for people because they may want to embroider it, but they're dealing with 2 layers. I encourage you to open these layers and treat the layer that's being embroidered. You check for that textile. I would not encourage you. You can do it if you're very skilled at floating, but you have to realize that both textiles are different. The lining of this has a little bit of stretch, and the outer fabric is a woven. So you can see where the stabilizer would definitely become an issue. This one's woven. The lining is not, however. It's got a little bit of stretch in its spandex. So these are 2 fabrics that are used together, and the designer of this actual jacket dress was very, very smart because, of course, it has some give. The slip or the lining is closer to the body, and it needs give. But it definitely needs to be inspected prior to embroidery. I think you guys are kind of getting the idea. So I'm going to take this stuff out of the way, and I'm going to talk to you about, well, if I'm not going to follow the rule, the made-up rule, of if you wear it, don't tear it. That one's gone. We're going to make a new rule. Inspect your textile and apply the proper stability. Just inspect every textile that comes across your desk that's going to be embroidered needs to be inspected, okay? So let's say that you do end up with a fabric that has give and it has some stretch in it, albeit polyester, spandex, or some type of give. Dependent on the type of design, you are definitely going to start with some fusible mesh stabilizer. So what I like to do, and a good example would be, this is handy, this is one. This is just a nice little dress. It's a very thin jersey weight, super, super thin, and it's stretch. So if I were, and this is actually my dress, so look, if I wanted to monogram this or put a design on this, the very first thing I would do is locate where I'm going to put the design. I would not mark the textile, but I would open the textile, you can pin it if you need to, and then I would take a little piece of poly mesh stabilizer. This is fusible. It comes in black and mesh and white. And then I would just fuse it to the area behind the fabric where I will be stitching. Okay? That's going to stabilize the whole knit so that it won't shift while the design is being stitched. In the hoop, I would just have a tearaway. So the tearaway will be the base to support this, but this is the primary function of this mesh stabilizer. It supports the knit. Once I was done with the embroidery completely, I would remove the tearaway. I would heat the mesh stabilizer back up with the iron from the front or the back, and then just lift it and trim, just like you saw on the base of the circumference of the dress. That is what's used, okay? So mesh stabilizer, lots of different companies have it. It's just a regular weight. I like it. I think it's really good, and it works in tandem with the Baby Lock tearaway. So Baby Lock has tearaway stabilizer that's just medium. So if you're dealing with a lot of fabrics and fibers that have give, you'll want to add fusible mesh first and then hoop the tearaway. And we're going to have a floating video in a little bit, and you guys will know about how to do that. Very next, what if it's a pretty heavy design and I really wanted to put it on this textile that has some give? You may very likely be using the mesh and then also an actual cutaway that is actually very fibrous that gets trimmed out. And so if it's a heavy design, an encrusted design, you may want to do that. I encourage you, however, to examine knits and question whether you should be putting heavy designs on them anyways, because they're designed to draw back up when the fibers are washed and dried and worn. So they consistently shrink back, and it's a fighting battle. So if I were you and I was going to embroider on giving fabrics that have a little bit of knit in them, maybe go with a little less is more approach so that you're not creating that heavy badge effect that's not good for the textile. Sometimes I think that there's a lot of frustration in machine embroidery, and it's just due to crazy misinformation. It really is. It's not you. It's not anything you're doing. You're not making heavy mistakes, or it's not that you can't learn. It's that it's very possible someone gave you information that was incorrect, and so then you've been trying to produce results from that statement, and you continue to not be successful, and it's not anything you've done other than the fact that you didn't question the source of the information. So I encourage you, always question what I'm saying to you. I encourage you to check, test, and see what things work for you. And if someone gives you some information about textile design, raised textile design, machine embroidery, check the source, see their work, question, try to attempt what they are suggesting. If you have followed the instruction that hasn't worked, it's possible it's bad instruction. I'm not going to say more than that, but it's, in my opinion, it's definitely untrue of the statement, if you wear it, don't tear it. It's absolutely inaccurate, and I would not use it to apply any type of textile designing to any garment. Absolutely not. Now, I want to also on this mention, there is a difference between interfacing and stabilizer. So let me make the point. And there are some that cross the corner. So stabilizers are sold in machine embroidery stores. You can buy them online if you like. I prefer to support my local retailers. They come in many different fashions: heat away, cut away, wash away, water soluble, and of course they are designed to be used with a specific textile, case by case basis. And then interfacings are sold in the big box stores, Hobby Lobby, Joann's, and interfacing is what sewists use to support certain areas of garments like collars and cuffs and waistbands to give the fabric support, because those are regions that hold or bear a lot of strain, and so you want them to look crisp. Of course, the collar, the shirt material is very smooth, but on a men's collar or women's collar, but you definitely would want the actual collar part to be crisp and stand up when it's pressed. So different technique Interfacing is used to support fabric when it's sewn into a garment. It is not a stabilizer and is not designed to stabilize fabric when it's embroidered. So please don't mix them up. They can't be mixed, and they shouldn't be. So keep them in a separate place. There is, however, one that I consider a crossover, and it's a Dreamweave Fusible, and it's by Floriani. This one's really nice because you can use it as interfacing if you're creating a garment. It makes great waistbands without being really heavy, but you can also use it in place of if you've got a very fine knit and you need to embroider it. It will help support the knit, and it's very thin, but then you can also use it to cover up the back of the embroidery. And I want to make a note about that. I don't do that. There's no commercial manufacturer in the world that does that. Your children are given baby clothes, don't even have that, actual embroidered baby clothes. So I get the point of it. The thing is, this is designed to lift and give a little bit. It's just support while the design's being stitched. It's not for afterwards. So what I think happened is somebody was using it, they possibly were like, oh, you could do that too. And then other people tried it and they kept thinking, my iron's not hot enough or I'm not doing it correctly. It's not really intended for that. It might even be on the package as that, but it's been my experience that it lifts in the wash because I tested it. So, as I said, I encourage you with any information that comes across, whether it's political, religious, sewing related, hobby related, go find sources that you can trust. Check and test what has been said and find out what works for you. But definitely when you are creating any machine embroidered textile, and it is for garments or any other type of fiber actually, anytime you machine embroider, you should inspect the actual content, fiber content of the item. And then you should make your stabilizer decisions based on that content, not on a blanket statement about anything in the world. There's thousands of kinds of textiles. So I hope this is encouraging to you, and I hope that you guys just sit down and say, hey, maybe I need to look a little differently at textiles, and maybe I'll have better results if I don't embrace that role. This has been a teachable moment with Nicci from Nicci's Embroidery, and I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.